I'm Riley, and let me tell you, this past Thanksgiving, it shattered something in me. My family lied straight to my face. They crafted some flimsy excuse to keep me from coming to dinner. And the worst part, I was the only one left out. They all sat around the table laughing, drinking, passing plates like I didn't even exist. Why? Because I'm just an HCF tech. That's it. That's the reason, but here's the real kicker. I'm the one paying for my little sister's law school. Yeah, the same sister who acts like I'm a walking embarrassment. The same family who never hesitated to cash my checks, but suddenly didn't want me near the silverware. So I made a decision. One that would change everything. The buzzing neon sign of my shop, Blue Peak Climate Services, flickered against the dusky Portland sky as I locked up for the night. The November air cut through my jacket like a blade, but weirdly, I felt warm inside, not happy, just ready. Thanksgiving was still a few days out, and for once I had everything squared away. No last-minute emergency calls, no overdue installs. I'd scheduled every job, prepped bonuses for my crew, and even picked out a decent bottle of wine to bring to dinner. A small olive branch. Stupid me. I climbed into my truck, settling into the familiar seat, when my phone lit up. Mom, I smiled without thinking, expecting her usual call about pies. Pecan or pumpkin? Riley, bring your famous mashed potatoes. That sort of thing. But the second I answered, her voice gave me chills. Riley, sweetheart, we need to talk about Thanksgiving. Something was off. Mom always spoke with a clipped confidence, firm, quick, always managing everything like a CEO in pearls. But now she sounded hesitant. Unsteady, like whatever she was about to say would stick. Sure, I said, shifting into drive, already uneasy. What's going on? Silence, a beat too long. My stomach tightened. We just think it might be best if you skip dinner this year. I nearly veered into the next lane. Wait, what? My fingers clenched the steering wheel. What do you mean skip dinner? We always spend Thanksgiving together. She sighed, soft, rehearsed, like she was preparing for an argument she'd already had in her head a dozen times. Well, it's just going to be a little more formal this year. Sienna's boyfriend is bringing his parents, and well, we thought it might be better if it was just, close family. I scoffed. My chest was a knot of disbelief and something dangerously close to rage. I am close family, Mom. Of course you are, sweetheart, she rushed to say, the syrupy tone clashing with every word. It's just, well, you know how these professional families can be. It's important Sienna makes a good impression. And there it was. The truth slid between her words like a dagger. I didn't fit their image. I didn't wear a suit. I didn't work in a glossy office. I fix furnaces and climb on rooftops in the rain. And apparently that made me unworthy of mashed potatoes and gravy. So what? Because I don't have a corner office, or a country club membership, I don't deserve a seat at the table. Riley, don't make this about you, I laughed. Sharp. Bitter. Oh, I get it. This isn't about me, it's about making sure your precious Sienna isn't humiliated by her blue-collar sister. Right? She didn't answer. Of course she didn't. That silence, it said everything. I can't believe this, I muttered, my voice trembling. It's just one dinner, Riley, she replied gently, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. We'll make it up to you, maybe brunch next weekend. I hung up. No yelling, no drama. Just, click. I sat there in my truck, the engine humming quietly beneath me, hands still gripping the wheel. My chest rose and fell in shallow bursts. One dinner. That's how they framed it. Just one night. After years of paying Sienna's tuition, after covering rent she never thanked me for, after stretching every dollar to make sure she never had to worry about student loans. And this was my reward. Erased from the guest list because I was embarrassed. I stared through the windshield, headlights blurring in the distance, trying to swallow the fury. Then my phone vibrated again. A text. Chloe Bennett, my cousin. One of the few decent ones. I need to tell you something. It's about Thanksgiving. I stared at her name, thumb hovered. My pulse skipped. Something told me I hadn't even scratched the surface yet. I hesitated before opening Chloe's message. Some part of me already knew it wouldn't be good. Like the air before a storm, still but heavy. I overheard your mom and Sienna talking the other day. Sienna told her she didn't want you at Thanksgiving, because she was afraid you'd make her look bad in front of Nathan's parents. I blinked at the screen. She said, and I quote, I don't want them to think we come from a working class background. Oh, my God. I read the message again, then again, Every word carved through my chest like glass. My own sister. The same girl whose textbooks I bought, whose rent I covered, whose law school I've been bankrolling semester after semester, was ashamed of me. Ashamed of me, of the work I do, of the life I've built, of the fact that I wear steel-toe boots instead of stilettos. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurl my phone across the truck, watch it shatter against the dash like the illusion I'd clung to for far too long. But I did. I just sat there frozen, fingers clenched so tightly around the phone that my knuckles turned white. My jaw ached from the pressure. My heart, it didn't break. It burned. Looking back now, the signs were always there. The way she never invited me to her campus event. The way she dodged questions from her friends about what I did for a living, changing the subject like I was some inconvenient secret. The way she never introduced me to Nathan, even though they'd been together for nearly a year. I was her big sister for God's sake. But to her, I was background noise. And I'd ignored it all, brushed it off, told myself I was being overly sensitive, that maybe she was just busy, or stressed, or forgetful. But this wasn't paranoia, this was plain brutal truth. Thanksgiving arrived like a punch to the gut, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone. I tried to distract myself, went for a drive through the pine-lined backroads outside Portland, stopped at a little roadside diner and stared into a cup of burnt coffee, called a couple friends, made awkward conversation, laughed too loud at things that weren't funny just to fill the silence. But nothing dulled the ache. That night, despite every warning bell in my head, I opened social media, and there they were, smiling faces, perfect light, the long dining table draped in autumn decor, cranberry sauce, wine glasses, linen napkins folded into tiny golden pumpkins, my mother's proud smile, Sienna's sleek designer dress, Nathan in a blazer, his parents elegant, composed, and me, nowhere, not even a mention, not even a that was the moment, the exact moment something inside me snapped. If I wasn't good enough to sit at their table, then my money sure as hell wasn't good enough to pay for Sienna's life. The next morning, I woke up with a strange stillness inside me, not peace, not yet, but something better, clarity, the kind that settles in when you stop making excuses for people who've never made any for you. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, sat at my little kitchen table, and opened my laptop. The login screen for Westfield University Ibling flashed before me like a challenge. I typed in the password, Sienna Morgan 94. I'd used it so many times I could probably recite it in my sleep. Balance, due 21,500. Every tuition payment, every dorm deposit, every unexpected fee, they all came from me, quietly, automatically, but not this time. This time, my cursor moved to remove payer. A tiny pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this payment account? This action cannot be undone. I stared at it for half a breath. Then I clicked yes. Just like that, it was done. No dramatic music, no flashing lights, just freedom, wrapped in a single click. The moment my laptop snapped shut, my phone started buzzing. Mom, I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. By the 4th I sighed and picked up, already bracing myself. Riley, her voice was sharp, already mid-fight. What are you doing? I took a calm sip of my coffee. Well, good morning to you too, Mom. Don't play games with me, she barked. Sienna just called me in tears, hysterical. She says you cut off her tuition. Please tell me that's not true. Oh, it's true, I replied, tone as flat as the ceramic mug in my hand. Silence, then a dramatic inhale. Riley Morgan, how could you be so cruel? Cruel, I laughed, a short, bitter sound. That's an interesting word choice, considering she's the one who had me uninvited from Thanksgiving because she was embarrassed by me. She was just trying to make a good impression on Nathan's parents. Mom snapped, switching gears with that syrupy guilt trip tone she always reserved for when she wanted something. You know how these things go. She's young. She doesn't always think. She's 24. She knows exactly what she's doing. Another pause, a breath, and then, you promised to support her through school, Riley. No, I said, my voice turning steel. I promised to help my sister, not someone who treats me like a damn inconvenience. She didn't mean it that way, Mom said, her voice clipped and irritated, as if she could wave away the wound with denial. Oh, she meant it exactly that way, I snapped, my voice cold. She sighed, a long, frustrated exhale. I'd heard 1,000 times. Riley, you're overreact. Family makes sacrifices for each other. That's just what we do. I bit down on a bitter laugh that tasted like rust. Yeah, funny how family only seems to matter when I'm the one sacrificing, I said quietly. But the second I ask for even the smallest amount of respect, suddenly I'm too much. She needs this, Riley. So did I. Silence. For once she didn't have a comeback. No rehearsed monologue about Sienna's bright future. No guilt-drenched performance about what's best for the family. Just dead air. I let the pause stretch between us like a chasm. Then I said it. I'm done. Riley, don't. No, I mean it. My grip tightened around the now cold coffee mug. I've spent years paying for her education. I covered every book, every fee, every late-night panic call. I made sure she never had to stress over a single cent. And the one time, just one time, I needed her to acknowledge me, she erased me instead. There was a sharp inhale on the other end. You're being so dramatic. I closed my eyes. No, I'm just done being disposable. I think we're done here, I said, ignoring the way the words sliced through my own chest. Riley, wait. But I didn't. I hung up. And then, I sat there. The hum of the fridge, the quiet thrum of the city beyond the thick windows, the soft tick of the heating vent, and my heart, slamming against my ribs like it wanted to break out of me. I had actually done it. I should have felt guilty. Maybe a sliver of me did, but it was buried so deep under years of neglect and manipulation, I barely noticed it. That guilt had shriveled into something else entirely. Satisfaction, twisted, quiet, and honest. I stared at the half-empty mug of coffee on the table, cold, forgotten. The lamp beside me cast a dim golden glow across the living room, my small peaceful world, and I realized, this was the first time in years that I was actually sitting still. No running, no fixing, no bending over backwards to make other people comfortable. My mind unraveled memory after memory, like brittle thread pulling apart from a worn-out sweater. Sienna had been ashamed of me for a long time. I just didn't want to believe it. I remembered last Christmas, when she threw a fancy party for her law school friend. Champagne flutes, jazz music, gold confetti. I only knew it even happened because I saw it on Instagram. Her smiling face, center of the frame, surrounded by people in cocktail dresses, with a caption that read, "Success tastes better with the right people." I wasn't one of those people. When I asked her about it, she laughed nervously and said it was a small thing, just a few classmates. No big deal. She promised to do something special with me soon. She never did. And then there was the time I stopped by campus. I'd been doing a job nearby and thought, why not surprise her, take her out for dinner, maybe catch up. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her eyes darted around nervously when I approached. She barely let me in the lobby, mumbling something about a study group. 15 awkward minutes of small talk and then she was gone. And the introductions. God, whenever I bumped into her friends, it was never, "This is my sister Riley." No, it was always, "Oh, this is family, just family," as if even saying my name might stain her social stand. I had told myself it wasn't on purpose, that she was just busy, distracted, young, but that wasn't the truth. The truth was uglier. She had been embarrassed by me from the start, and worse, I had let her be. For years I let her take and take and take, let her chip away at my work, let her pretend I was invisible, so long as she still got her tuition paid, because I thought love was unconditional, because I thought family meant something sacred, but I'd been wrong. Love doesn't mean erasing yourself for someone else's comfort. Family shouldn't come with a list of conditions and invisible fine print. And that realization, it didn't destroy me, it set me free. I turned back to my laptop, fingers hovering above the keyboard like they had a mind of their own. I'd done this so many times, it was practically muscle memory. Logging into Westfield University Ebeling, checking Sienna's balance, making sure everything was in order before the next deadline hit. I knew every screen, every button. I could navigate it in my sleep. But tonight, the screen felt different. No longer like duty, more like a reckoning. Next semester's tuition, $21,500. Due in 2 weeks. I stared at the number. My stomach turned like I'd swallowed a brick. How many weekends had I worked late just to scrape together that amount? How many vacations had I passed on? How many little luxuries had I denied myself just so she could have this? So she could walk across that law school campus without a care in the world, pretending I didn't exist. I clenched my jaw. Not this time. I grabbed my phone and dialed the financial office. 2 rings. Westfield University billing office. How can I assist you today? My voice was steady, too steady. Hi, I need to remove myself as the payer on a student account. There was a pause on the other end. Are you sure? This will directly impact the student's enrollment status. I closed my eyes. Inhale, exhale. I had spent years being absolutely certain about things, and people that never deserved my certainty. But this, I'm sure. The process was almost insultingly quick. A few security questions, a confirmation link, one last click, and then it was done. Just like that, I was free. I set my phone down on the table, and let out a breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. The kind that felt like it had been lodged in my chest for years. No guilt, no dread, just something new, relief, a strange, unfamiliar kind of lightness. The kind that creeps in when you finally drop a weight you should have never been carrying in the first place. But I knew, oh, I knew, this wasn't the end. Sienna was going to find out, and when she did, she'd erupt. It didn't even take a full day. The next morning I was halfway through my coffee, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't even need to look. I already knew. Sienna. The screen lit up again and again, 4 times in a row. I let it ring, slowly lifted my mug, took a long sip like it was arm. I wasn't afraid of this conversation. No, that wasn't quite true. I just didn't owe her this conversation anymore. When the buzzing stopped, a voicemail popped up. Against my better judgment, I pressed play. Riley, what the I just got an email from the university saying my tuition payment was declined. This has to be a mistake. Call me back. Her voice was shrill, panicked. I set the phone down, took another sip of coffee, let her stew in it. Another call, then another. Then came the text. Riley, if you don't fix this, I won't be able to enroll next semester. You can't just do this to me. I started typing a response. Not my problem. But then I stopped. What was the point? No message, no perfectly worded paragraph would make her understand. She wouldn't see the late nights, the sacrificed dreams, the years of quiet giving. She wouldn't see the cost. All she'd see was what she'd lost, not what she'd been given. I deleted the message, put my phone on silent, because I already knew what was coming next. Sienna wasn't the kind of person who handled consequences with grace. When she realized I wasn't going to engage, she pivoted to plan B. Nathan. She showed up at his apartment like a storm, hair a mess, makeup smudged, breath shallow from frantic pacing. Her eyes were wide with panic. Nathan had barely opened the door before she pushed past him, pacing circles in his living room like a caged animal. I can't believe this, Sienna gasped, her fingers gripping her temples like she could physically hold the panic in place. Riley cut me off. Just like that. No warning, no explanation, nothing. Nathan closed the door behind her slowly, confusion furrowing across his brow. Wait, Riley, your sister Riley. Yes, she snapped, pacing his living room like a panicked wind-up toy. I just got the email from Westfield. My tuition payment didn't go through. I tried calling her, but she's completely ignoring me. Nathan sat down on the couch, watching her carefully. Hold on, I thought your parents were paying for your tuition. Sienna froze mid-step, and for the first time in a very, very long time, she didn't have a rehearsed line ready. Well, she muttered, eyes darting anywhere but at him. I mean, they help. But Riley was covering most of it. Nathan's brows pulled tight. Most of. Sienna gave a nervous little laugh, trying to wave it away. I don't know. A few payments here and there. Sienna, his voice turned sharp. How much? She swallowed hard. All of it. The room fell into a stunned silence. Nathan leaned forward, his voice low, controlled, but there was steel underneath. So let me get this straight. Your sister has been paying for your entire education, and you let me believe your parents were footing the bill. She flinched. It's not that big of a deal. Nathan cut her off, voice rising. And wasn't Riley not even invited to Thanksgiving? What was that about? Sienna's cheeks flushed. That was different. How? Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. And in that second he knew. Nathan's expression shifted. The dots connected with quiet finality. The sister who's been paying your tuition wasn't good enough to sit at the dinner table with your boyfriend's family. His voice was eerily calm, like a knife just before it cuts. Sienna panicked. You don't understand, Nathan. It was just about appearances, okay? About making a good impression. It's not like I don't appreciate everything Riley's done. She just doesn't understand the world I'm trying to build. Nathan let out a slow, disbelieving breath and shook his head. You mean the world where you lie about where you came from? The one where you erase the people who actually help you because they don't fit the image you're selling? Her throat closed up. Wow, she whispered, reaching for anything to hold on to. Nathan stood, grabbed his keys from the side table, and looked at her like he was seeing a stranger in his own home. Where are you going? she asked, voice cracking. I need some space. Her stomach dropped like a stone. You're seriously mad at me over this? He didn't answer. He just walked out. And for the first time, Sienna realized she might have just lost more than her tuition. That night, as the wind howled against the windows of my apartment, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text. From her. I hope you're happy. You just ruined my life. I stared at the glowing screen, waiting for the familiar pang of guilt, the instinct to fix it, to soften, to explain. But it never came. I just set the phone back down and finished my coffee, because if she thought I had ruined her life. Oh, sweetheart, she had no idea. She did that all on her own. The next call didn't come from Sienna, it came from my mother. I stared at the screen, her name glowing like a warning flare in the dark. Helen Morgan. I could already hear her voice, the carefully controlled disappointment, the sighs that carried more judgment than words ever could, that quiet, infuriating tone that said, "You've let me down again, Riley." I let it ring twice before answering. "Riley," her voice was sharp, already urgent. "I just got off the phone with Sienna. She's hysterical." I leaned back against the kitchen counter, fingers tightening around the warm ceramic of my coffee mug. Yeah? Maybe she should have thought about that before she decided I didn't exist. "Riley," Mom scolded, switching to her soft, patronizing tone, the one she reserved for keeping control without sounding controlling. "She's your sister. You can't just abandon her like this." I exhaled slowly through my nose, trying to keep my voice steady. "I didn't abandon her. I just stopped funding her lifestyle. She's just a kid." I laughed short and sharp. "She's 24, Mom. She doesn't know how to handle a setback like this." And there it was, the truth, the real reason she was calling. Not to check on me, not to ask how I was doing after being erased from the family dinner table, not even to apologize. No, this was about damage control. Sienna had blown up her own life, and now it was time for me to swoop in and clean up the mess. Again, I didn't say a word, just wait. "Riley, please." She tried again, her voice softening. "You know how hard she's worked to get where she is." The bitterness in my mouth tasted like copper. "And where was she?" I said slowly. "When I was working double shifts just so she wouldn't have to take out a single loan." Silence. "Where was she?" I continued. "When you uninvited me from Thanksgiving because she didn't want her boyfriend's family knowing she had a blue-collar sister." Mom let out a loud, exasperated sigh. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." I nearly dropped my mug. "Are you serious right now?" My voice cracked like thunder. "She erased me, Mom. She's been erasing me for years. She only remembers me now because she lost her golden parachute." "She's family," Mom insisted. "We help each other." I scoffed. "Funny how that only works one way." I pushed off the counter and started pacing, adrenaline buzzing beneath my skin. "No, Mom. I helped her. I paid her tuition. I made sure she never had to choose between groceries and rent. I gave her a future she never thanked me for, and she couldn't even give me a damn chair at the table." "She's scared, Riley. She's young. She's selfish," I corrected sharply. "And I'm done. I'm done cleaning up after her." A long pause. Then, with that deliberately patient tone I knew all too well, she asked, "So what do you expect her to do now? Just drop out?" I didn't flinch. "Not my problem, Riley," she warned. "I mean it, Mom," I said, exhausted down to my bones. "Find someone else to foot the bill." Her voice sharpened instantly. "Like who?" "Your father and I can't afford it. You know that." And there it was, the heart of it all. She had never expected Sienna to figure it out. She expected me to cave, just like always, but not this time. "Well," I said coolly, "I guess Sienna's going to have to learn how to live like the rest of us." I reached for the end call but, Riley, the next few hours were quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that doesn't last. Then, like clockwork, they started. One by one. Dad was first. "Riley." His deep voice grumbled through the phone like distant thunder. "This is going too far, you're punishing your own blood." Next was Aunt Linda. "I never thought you'd be so heartless." Then Uncle Frank, ever the charming realist. "It's just money, Riley. You make plenty. Don't be petty." And then came the flood. Cousins. Family, friends, even people I hadn't heard from in years. Suddenly coming out of the woodwork with the same tired line. "Riley, how could you?" It was almost impressive, really. How fast they all rallied behind Sienna. How quickly I became the villain in a story they had no real part in. Not one of them had defended me when I was cut out of Thanksgiving. Not one of them called to ask how I was doing, how it felt to be erased like I never existed. But the moment Sienna lost her free ride, suddenly it was a family crisis. I let their calls pile up. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. Didn't open a single text. I just let the noise collect, unbothered. Until just before midnight when Mom called again. This time I picked up. "Let me guess," I said flatly. "You've gathered the whole clan and decided to stage an intervention." "Riley," she warned. "This isn't funny." "No," I agreed. "It's pathetic." She inhaled sharply, that brittle gasp of wounded pride. "How dare you? How dare I?" I cut in, my voice sharp, rising. "Where were you when I was working weekends and pulling overtime to pay for everything she ever needed?" Silence. "Where were all of you when she was hiding me from her friends? When she couldn't even say I was her sister? When she made it painfully clear that my life, my work wasn't good enough to be part of her world?" Mom cleared her throat. "Riley. It's not like that. It is like that." My voice cracked. With truth. With fury. With years of being quietly used and ignored. "And let me be crystal clear, Mom. I'm done. Sienna's on her own now." Then I hung up. And I meant it. But Sienna? Oh no. She wasn't done. At first it was subtle. A shift in tone. A strange look from a longtime client. Hesitation in the voices of family friends I used to joke with. I told myself I was imagining it. Until I wasn't. One afternoon I was finishing up a standard inspection for Deborah Langley. A woman who'd used my HVAC services for years. Always referred me to her neighbors. Friendly. Consistent. But this time, she looked at me differently. Cold. Disapproving. "I never thought you'd abandon your own sister like that, Riley," she said, folding her arms with that tight-lipped expression that screamed judgment. "Family is supposed to take care of each other." I froze, clipboard in hand. "Excuse me." She sighed like I'd disappointed her personally. "I just didn't think you were the type to turn your back on your own blood." There it was. That familiar cutting phrase. I forced a tight smile. One I'd perfected over the years. "Well, Miss Langley, I suppose that depends on which version of the story you've heard." She pursed her lips but didn't say another word. And I didn't give her the satisfaction of a rebuttal. Instead I walked out, climbed into my truck and pulled out my phone, opened social media, and there it was. Sienna had been busy. Her posts were vague, but surgical, carefully crafted, just dramatic enough to stir sympathy without naming names. Photos of her study notes captioned, "Some people only love you when you're useful." A selfie with teary eyes and the line, "You'd think family would support you through your dreams." Another one, "I never imagined I'd be here, alone, let down by the person I trusted most." Not a single tag. Not a single direct mention. But everyone knew who she meant. And suddenly, I wasn't just the sister who paid for everything. I was the monster who abandoned her. Some people love money more than family. So disappointing. I always believed in supporting your siblings. Guess not everyone feels the same. Those were the first two. Then came the wave of comments. An endless stream of sympathy and validation from people who had no idea what really happened. "I can't believe your own family would do this to you. You deserve better, babe. Stay strong. You've always been the sweet." People like that will regret their choices one day. My thumb hovered above the screen as I scrolled, each line hitting harder than the last. My stomach twisted when I started recognizing names. Cousins. Distant relatives. Family friends. People who hadn't so much as sent me a text after Thanksgiving. People who knew damn well I'd been shut out. Now, they were lining up to crown Sienna the poor heartbroken victim. It was almost funny how easy it had been for her to flip the script. And right on cue my phone lit up. Then my uncle. Then Mom. I silenced every call. I already knew what they were going to say before they even opened their mouths. "Riley, how could you? This isn't who we raised you to be. Just fix it already." I had gone from family to villain in less than a week. All because I refused to keep playing the role they loved most. The silent provider. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, started the engine and drove. Enough. I was done letting her control the narrative. No calls. No warnings. No dramatic. I pulled up to Sienna's apartment, parked and walked straight to the door like a storm rolling in from the coast. Knock. 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 Hard enough to rattle the frame. It took a moment. Then the door opened. There she was, Sienna, phone still in hand, her thumb mid-scroll. Her eyes widened for a split second before she snapped into performance mode. "Riley," she said smoothly, "to what do I owe the pleasure?" I pushed past her without waiting for an invitation. She scoffed. swinging the door shut. "Oh, come in. Why don't you?" I turned to face her, my jaw locked tight. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" She blinked, painting innocence across her face like cheap foundation. "I have no idea what you're talking about." I laughed. Cold and I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped the screen and held it up to her face. "Some people love money more than family." "Oh, you don't," I said, my voice flat with fury. "Because this looks a hell of a lot like you trying to paint me as some heartless monster." Her lips curled into a smug little smirk. "I'm just telling the truth." My fingers curled around the edges of my phone. I forced myself to breathe. "The truth?" I echoed. "You mean the truth where I paid your tuition for years while you pretended I didn't exist? The truth where I gave you everything, and you still looked at me like I was beneath you?" She crossed her arms, chin tilting defiantly. "And now you're mad because people are finally seeing who you really are." I stepped closer, voice dropping into something low and steady. "No, Sienna, you should be mad because this little game you're playing, it's not going to end the way you think it will." Her smirk wavered. She tried to recover. "Oh please," she scoffed. "You think people are going to turn on me? I've built relationships. I have connections. And you fix air conditioners. You think that makes you someone?" Her words didn't hit. "Not anymore," I smiled. Just a small, calm, terrifying smile. "Go ahead, Sienna. Keep lying. Keep spinning your little story. Keep manipulating everyone into thinking you're the poor, innocent victim." I turned toward the door, my hand on the handle. Then I looked back at her one final time. "Because when this all crashes down on you, and it will, I won't be there to save you." And she was about to learn just how alone she really was. Because that perfect little world she built, the one constructed out of my money, my silence, my sacrifice, it was already starting to fall apart. And the best part, I didn't have to lift a finger. She had spent years living on borrowed ground, and now that I'd pulled out the foundation, there was nothing left to stand on. No one to blame but herself. And the first person to see through the cracks. Nathan. It started with a simple message. An anonymous email slipped into Nathan's inbox late one night. No sender name, just a cryptic subject line. "Do you know who's really been paying your girlfriend's tuition?" At first he rolled his eyes. Internet trolls, jealous exes, people with too much time and too little purpose. But the message gnawed at him. Something about it wouldn't let go. There was a sliver of doubt he couldn't shake. A quiet whisper in the back of his mind that said, "Look closer." So he did. He picked up the phone and called Westfield University, posing as Sienna. It took 3 tries, bounced calls, long holds, the usual maze of university red tape. But when he finally reached the right department, the truth came crashing in. Her tuition unpaid, no record of a payment plan, no contributions from her or her parents, just one long, uninterrupted history of transactions, all from a now deactivated sponsor, R. Morgan. That night, when Sienna showed up at his apartment, expecting candlelight, Pinot Noir and one of her perfectly curated evenings, she was met with something far colder. Nathan stood in the doorway, arms crossed, phone in hand. His face was unreadable. His voice was, "Why did I have to hear from someone else that Riley was the one paying for your education?" Sienna blinked. "What?" He stepped aside, letting her walk in, but she could already feel it. The shift in the air, the warmth was gone, the safety she relied on was. "I called the university," he said, voice low and controlled as he shut the door behind her. "I was trying to see if there was a way I could help with your tuition since you seemed so stressed." He looked her dead in the eye. Imagine my surprise when they told me there wasn't a payment plan. There weren't any payments, because your sister was the one covering everything. Her mouth opened, then closed. She swallowed hard. "Nathan, it's not a big deal." "Oh, it's a huge deal," he snapped. "You lied to me. You let me believe your parents were paying, that you had your life together, that you were self-sufficient, but the whole time it was Riley's money keeping you afloat." She stepped forward, reaching for his hand, her face softening into something gentle, familiar. I didn't want you to think I was some kind of charity case." Nathan pulled his hand away like she'd burned him. "Oh, don't give me that," he said, voice rising. "You had no problem using Riley like an ATM. And now that she's finally done being used, you're twisting the narrative to make her look like the villain." Sienna's lips trembled. "I wasn't. I mean, I just..." Nathan laughed, bitter, hollow. "I can't believe I didn't see it. I can't believe I let myself buy into it." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing a step before stopping to stare at her. "I don't even know who you are anymore." Her chest tightened. "Nathan," he looked at her, really looked at her, Like he was seeing something for the first time that he'd been blind to all along. I think you should go. Her heart dropped to her stomach. You're breaking up with me. I can't be with someone who lies this easily. Simple, final. The words hit harder than she expected. For the first time something cracked inside her. She turned toward the door, hesitating, waiting, hoping he'd call her back. Reach out, say something. He didn't, and she walked out. The next morning, sunlight crept through her blinds as if it had the audacity to act normal. Her eyes were swollen. She hadn't slept. Her phone was glued to her hand, waiting for a message from Nathan that never came. But another message did. Subject: final warning. Tuition payment past due. She sat up fast, heart pounding. Dear Miss Morgan, this is your final notice regarding your outstanding tuition balance. If payment is not received within 48 hours, you will be automatically unenrolled from your courses. Her breath caught in her throat. The fallout had only just begun. Sincerely, Westfield University Billing Office. Sienna's stomach plummeted. No, 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 this couldn't be happening. She scrambled out of bed, her fingers trembling as she opened her laptop and logged into the student portal. Her breath caught when the page loaded. The balance, $21,500, was still there. No pending payments, no extensions, no magical last-minute reprieve, nothing. Her mind spun into panic. Alone, maybe alone, that's what people did, right? She yanked open a private lender site and began frantically typing in her parents' information. She'd need cosigners. Denied. Bad credit. Outstanding debt. She gritted her teeth and tried again through a different lender. Denied. Again. Denied. Her hands curled into fists on the keyboard. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. This wasn't her life. She was supposed to be untouchable. She had plans. A future. A reputation to maintain. She grabbed her phone, scrolled to Nathan's name and hesitated. Then she tapped call. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Voicemail. Tears pricked her eyes, but she blinked them away and scrolled down to the next contact. Riley. Her finger hovered over the call button. She pressed it. Blocked. The screen flashed cold and final. And just like that she was out of option. For the first time, truly, Sienna Morgan realized just how alone she was. So like she always had, she did what she did best when cornered. She lashed out. I was in the middle of a staff meeting when the front door of Blue Peak Climate Services slammed open so hard the glass shook in its frame. The room froze. Every conversation cut off mid-sentence. And there she was standing in the doorway like a storm in heels. Sienna. Her hair was wild, her eyes rimmed in red, her breath short like she'd run the entire way on fury alone. Every muscle in her face was wired for war. You ruined my life, she screamed, her voice sharp enough to slice through drywall. I set my clipboard down and exhaled slowly. Here we go. No, she spat. Don't act calm. You cut me off. You left me with nothing. How could you do this to your own sister? I crossed my arms and leaned back against my desk. That's funny. I don't remember you calling me your sister when you were lying to your boyfriend about who was paying your tuition. Her jaw clenched. That was different. Was it? I tilted my head. Because it seems to me the only time you acknowledge me is when you need something. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning for support, for a sympathetic glance. A nod. Anything. No one moved. Not one person rushed to her side. So she changed tact. She lifted her chin and raised her voice for all to hear. She abandoned her own family, she cried, turning to the room like she was on trial. She's selfish. She only cares about herself. She's not who you all think she is. Her words lingered in the air like smoke. But there was no outrage, no agreement, no rush of murmured support, only the heavy quiet of people who had seen the truth for themselves. And then from the far corner of the room, Cal Roberts, my senior technician, stepped forward. Calm, unfazed. Ma'am, he said politely, you need to leave. Sienna whipped around, wide-eyed. Excuse me? This is a place of business, he continued, firm and clear, and you're disrupting it. I'm her sister, she shrieked, as if the word still meant something. Cal barely blinked. And this is her business. You're trespassing. She let out a strangled, disbelieving sound. You don't understand. She's leaving me with nothing. She's ruining my future. Cal looked her dead in the eye. No, ma'am. She just stopped letting you take advantage of her. That was it. That was the moment it landed. Her mouth opened, closed. No one stepped in. No one defended her. No one believed the act anymore. The world she built on image, on borrowed power, on my silence, was crashing. And everyone in that room saw exactly who was left standing. No one stood with her. Not anymore. Security showed up within minutes, called quietly by one of my team, without me needing to say a single word. They moved with calm professionalism, approaching Sienna as her tirade echoed down the polished floors of Blue Peak Climate Service. She screamed, cursed, thrashed in place, her voice cracking as they gently but firmly escorted her out the door and into the cold Portland air. Her shrill cries echoed down the street, and just like that she was gone. That night, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but something told me this would be the last time they tried. The final performance, the closing plea. I sighed and picked up. Riley, we need to talk. My mother's voice was gone was the theatrical concern. This was a version of Helen Morgan stretched thin, nearing the edge of her control. I didn't speak. Then I heard my father clear his throat in the background. Look, honey, he began. Maybe things got out of hand, but Sienna's young. She needs help. I closed my eyes, pressing the phone tighter to my ear. Let me guess, you think I should help her? Mom exhaled sharply. Riley, come on, maybe we can work something out. You're doing well after all. I laughed. Low, bitter, exhausted. I said, stretching my legs across the couch. So now I'm family again. Now I belong because you need my money. Don't be like this, Dad said quickly, voice stiff with frustration. We just think. No, I cut in. Just that one word. Silence followed. You think I'll cave? I continued, tone flat. You think I'll do what I've always done, sacrifice my peace so she can stay comfortable? I shook my head, even though they couldn't see me. I'm done. Find another ATM, and I hung up. And for the first time, I truly felt free. But freedom has a cost. The first few days after cutting ties with my family were eerily quiet. No calls, no guilt-laced voicemails, no text messages carefully engineered to weaponize obligation, just silence. It was strange, that stillness. After years of being bombarded with their demands, their manipulation, their expectations, suddenly it was just me. And for the first time I let myself breathe. But a small part of me, conditioned, hopeful, still healing, kept waiting for the next round of chaos. For someone to come clawing their way back with another plea wrapped in sugar and shame. But no one did. The days stretched on, peaceful, quiet, mine. And then finally, the silence broke. Genevieve. Her name popped up on my phone during lunch break. I was sitting on the back steps of the office, coffee in hand, face tilted toward the pale winter sun. I hesitated just for a moment, then answered. Hey, I said, leaning back. Hey, she replied. Her voice was softer than usual, almost cautious. I wanted to check in, see how you're holding up. I let out a breath, watching it mist in the cold air. Honestly, better than I expected. A pause. I figured, she said. But I also figured you'd want to know what's going on with them. She didn't need to clarify who. I already knew. Still, I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it. Genevieve took my silence as permission. Sienna moved back home, she said, voice neutral. She's taking a break from school, says she's going to figure things out. But, well, you know how she is. I closed my eyes. Yeah, I do. And your parents? I asked, though I already knew the answer. They're struggling, financially, she said with a humorless chuckle. But of course, they won't admit you were right. They're still blaming you for everything. Like it's your fault. Sienna torched every bridge she had. I nodded to myself, taking another sip of coffee. Sounds about right. They'll never change, Genevieve said after a long pause. Her voice was quiet but firm. I hope you know that. I do, I murmured. I think I've always known. I just wasn't ready to accept it before. She let out a sigh on the other end of the line. Well, for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. A small smile tugged at the corner of my lips. Thanks, Jen. Any time, she said gently, then added, and hey, Merry Christmas. You deserve a good one this year. The day before Christmas Eve, I sat alone in my office, the soft hum of the heater filling the quiet space. In front of me lay a blueprint of what Blue Peak was becoming, plans for expansion, hiring schedules, new service territories. The business was growing faster than I ever imagined. More clients, more staff, more opportunities. And for the first time, I wasn't apologizing for it. For so long I downplayed my success, dimmed my light to keep others comfortable, treated my own ambition like a guilty secret. Not anymore. I wasn't ashamed of the life I had built with my own two hands. I wasn't shrinking myself to keep peace with people who only saw me as a paycheck. I was finally investing in me, and that was the most freeing realization of all. That night, as I slipped under the covers and reached to turn off the lamp, My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen. A text from Mom. Merry Christmas. We miss you. I stared at the message for a long moment, the glow of the screen reflecting off the darkened ceiling. A year ago, I would have jumped at the chance. I would have let guilt tug me back, would have questioned myself, justified their behavior, bent myself into a shape they could tolerate. But not this time, not anymore. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and deleted the message. I had nothing left to say. For the first time in my life I chose myself, and it felt damn good. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with something to think about. Life has a way of teaching us the hardest lessons through the people we love most. Especially when it comes to family. We're raised to believe that family is everything, that we should always be there for them, no matter the cost. But what happens when that loyalty becomes a leak? When love is one-sided, and your sacrifices are expected but never appreciated? Walking away from a toxic family dynamic doesn't mean you're cruel, it doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're finally choosing peace over performance. It means you're protecting the one person who's been carrying the weight for far too long. You. So if this story hit home, if you've ever felt like the ATM, the fixer, the forgotten one, just know this: your worth isn't measured by what you do for others. You are not a bank account. You are not a stepping stone. You deserve love, respect and dignity, even from the people who share your blood. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? Have you ever walked away from a relationship that drained you? Drop a 1 in the comments if this story made you feel seen, or tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. And hey, if you didn't connect with this story, tell me why. Your honesty matters too. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because trust me, we've got plenty more to tell. Thanks for watching, and remember, choosing yourself is never the wrong choice. See you in the next